Everybody, welcome to another Tom Bilyeu Show Live. We are excited to have you guys here. There is no dearth of things to talk about going on in the world right now. The U.S. is sending an elite group of paratroopers to the Middle East amid negotiations with Iran, which is becoming a signature move of the Trump administration. In totally unrelated news, of course, the age of enlistment has just been extended from 34 to 42. Credible accusations of insider trading are flying as someone keeps placing massive bets right before Trump makes very consequential announcements. We're going to want to look into that. ICE is turning their reputation around one airport at a time by dramatically reducing the wait times at all of the airports that they've been deployed to. The question is, are they just more efficient, or do we have way more illegals than we thought we did? Argentina's latest report card under Javier Milei is in, and the numbers are jarring for anyone that wants more socialism, that is. And OpenAI is fully exiting the video generation business, but it does not mean what most people think it means. We're going to be talking about all of that and more. And I want to shout out, by the way, you guys, please show some love to our partner on today's episode, which is Sum. They are a crypto tax solution. We're so grateful to those guys for coming on board with our crazy lives, man. For a long time, advertisers have been very nervous to touch it. So we're very excited to have a partner on today's show. All right, Drew, you look ready. You're locked and loaded.
I'm ready.
You good to go?
I know. Sign me up. I'm ready. I might have to just get my knees adjusted, but we're going to do it. For somebody who it'll be a gunshot, right?
That was the best punch cue ever. I loved it, G. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Hey man, for somebody who is winning the war, we're sure doing a lot of things that seem like we're still inside of a war. But let's throw it over to Trump, who spoke from the White House yesterday after he inaugurated when they bring in the new person. When you swear on the Bible.
Yeah, announced, swore in,
yeah.
Yeah.
The new DHS DHS secretary, he was asked about the war in Iran.
We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country.
It's not untrue.
They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it.
I want to know if he believes all the things that he says, or if he understands how much, like, if he is just trying to message to the American people, I totally get it. If you look at the polls, the number of Republicans that identify as MAGA are like way up. It's crazy. It's going up. My interpretation as somebody who's center right is that all of that stuff is going down, but the numbers don't show that. And so you've got an increasing number of Republicans who identify as MAGA, and then of MAGA people, the approval rating of Trump is insane. Like at one CNN report that it was 100% support of Donald Trump. Now, obviously margin of error, it's never going to be 100%. But that is wild. So if this really is somebody that just is so good at messaging to his base, okay, fine. But like the way that we get sucked into these wars is that you as the supreme leader of America,
I hate everything about that phrase.
I had to, Drew. But you are able to, especially in foreign affairs, you're able to go into these military conflicts. At least in the beginning, you have a limited window, but you can be very aggressive and do a lot with the executive powers. And they don't realize how hard it is to get back out. And so that's where it's like, man, you look back on history and it is just one conflict after another where easy to get in, easy to get those initial wins. They are wins, and you really are knocking that country back. All of the things that they're saying that we're doing are true, but they never talk about the fact that the asymmetrical insurgencies that these countries can run forever will eventually boot you out of the country. If you don't have a willingness to rule by force and come in and be your own dictator and just crush dissent, then you're going to see another popular uprising to boot you out. And so for me, if you don't look at Afghanistan and go, wait, it's a bunch of dudes in sandals and AK-47s trying to herd goats and kill you, and they still manage to pull it off, like they'll get you to leave. They got Russia to leave. They got the US to leave. It's like, this is just a thing. And so for him, again, from a messaging perspective, if you want to be cocky, fine. But I need to know that he understands that putting boots on the ground is like you're stepping into quicksand. It doesn't mean it's impossible to get out, but it does mean like that's a pretty dangerous move and you need to be very careful.
And right on cue, the Pentagon did announce that there'll be anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000. I've seen conflicting reports that we are sending troops over to the Middle East. So
in no uncertain terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Pentagon has ordered between 2,000 and 3,000 paratroopers, just paratroopers. Those are the numbers that I'm hearing. The paratroopers that they're putting in are from an elite military unit. They're all being sent to the Middle East. You combine that with a Marine Expeditionary Unit, multiple, I think, that are already moving towards the Persian Gulf. You've now got up to 8,000 U.S. ground troops converging on the region. That number's climbing. By the way, we already have like 40,000 military personnel that are there already. So this number is going up and up and up. The unit at the center of this recent deployment that's got everybody's attention is the 82nd Airborne. They're an immediate response force. They're supposed to be able to go anywhere in the world within 18 hours. So they're that rapid deployment force. And they've received written orders to head over to the Middle East. Leading the deployment is Major General Brandon Tegmeyer, as the commander of the 82nd Airborne. Now, along with him, you've got the full headquarters staff of this division going over there. Now, you don't do that unless you're very serious. So Trump is certainly, at a minimum, keeping his options open. No order has been given to enter Iran at this point, at least not that we know about. Of course, there's only going to be so much that's going to make its way to the public. So at this point, there's no guarantee that there are going to be boots on the ground, but the Pentagon is now openly discussing contingency options. And those options include seizing Karg Island, which Iran is not going to take laying down. That is their main oil export hub. Obviously, Trump is banging the drum of we are going to open the Strait of Hormuz, even if we have to do it by force. And he's going to be looking at securing Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. These are the things that he's been banging the drum about from a negotiating standpoint. Now, open source intelligence is also tracking dozens of transport aircraft that are flying out of airfields used by Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. Now, the activity has not been officially confirmed, but people can actually see it with their own eyes. Now, just because there's a bunch of activity going on doesn't mean that it's them heading over to the Middle East. It doesn't mean that they are going to be part of raising the tensions there. But it's hard to believe that they're completely unrelated, so we'll have to wait and see what's going on. Now, regarding the 82nd Airborne, the last time that they mobilized like this was back in January of 2020, right after the U.S. killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. That was obviously meant to be a deterrence posture. At the time, we were not looking in any way, shape, or form to go in. But the question right now is this deployment also just defensive, or is Trump really about to take Karg Island, or something that nobody's even talking about yet, which is obviously possible? As I was saying before, the U.S. already has more than 40,000 troops stationed across the Middle East, so we're ready for a pretty big fight if it comes to that. So all of this is really, when you look at the way that Trump moves, it's becoming a recurring theme in his strategies that as he negotiates, as he's like, hey, we want to find a diplomatic solution to this, he also builds up military force so that if things are not going exactly the way that he wants, he's going to go in guns blazing. Now, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad strategy. He is showing the world that he is willing to, if you call his bluff, he will back it up. Now, I'm not saying that it's wise strategically, but from a tactical standpoint, yes, like that actually works. People understand, okay, like this guy's definitely here to play. But it has a flip side, which, and the Iranians are speaking directly to this, although I never know who I can believe out of whether it's a pundit or somebody officially in the regime. But they're saying, we don't trust this guy. Like every time we go to negotiate, then he attacks. Now, at the same time, anybody that's been paying attention to Iran for long enough knows you can't trust the Iranians. So they will try to drag things out, stall as long as they can. And so all of that stuff becomes a bit of a quagmire if you're actually trying to get to the other side of an actual peaceful negotiation. If neither side trusts the other side to do what they say they're going to do, then the odds of the talks being fruitful go way, way down. on the same day that the Pentagon issued the transit orders, the Trump administration submitted a 15-point ceasefire proposal to Tehran. So you can imagine being in that negotiation. It's like, hold on a second. You're telling me this is what you want me to do. And then over here, you're like, yeah. Go build up more troops. Give me that lightning strike special paramilitary group that can drop in and take Kharg Island if I need to. Now, it makes it very clear that if you don't yield to these demands, that we are going to make a move. Now, the proposal that Trump put demands that Iran permanently abandon its nuclear weapons program and dismantle existing capabilities. Trump has been banging the drum saying that they're ready to agree. They've already agreed. So we'll see if that's real. Supposedly there was some big gift given, but he won't say what the big gift is. That is the weirdest way to put that forward. He says it has something to do with the oil. So we'll see. Feels weird to call it a gift, but nonetheless, there we are. So anyway, Trump negotiates with his finger on the trigger. I'm simultaneously impressed because you know that these are not empty words. And at the same time, I know that kind of diplomacy builds a static charge in the people that you're working with. And not just, by the way, the people you're negotiating with right now, but the rest of the world. And I know it is good that America has, people understand under Trump, America is strong and aggressive. But they also know that America is a bully and will do whatever the fuck it wants, regardless of what you want. And so suddenly when somebody says, hey, Greenland is looking pretty sexy this time of year, all of a sudden you go, damn, like you can't assume that these are just empty words where he's trying to get NATO allies to the table. And so if Trump is unaware of how this is impacting the relationships with our longstanding allies, then that's full retard. So yeah, we're going to have to see what ends up happening with all of this. It's wild, man. It is wild.
Yeah, and at the same time, there's been reports J.D. Vance is going to be part of the negotiation delegation that will talk.
Yeah, supposedly they're asking for him. Yeah. I was surprised by that.
That's very interesting. Marco Rubio is on his way to the G7 in France to have a meeting sit down with the European allies to see if they can help provide aid to the Strait of Hormuz.
Marco Rubio for president, man. I love that guy.
It seems like there's a lot of different things happening. Is this just Trump hedging his bets? I'm going to have a strong offensive presence ready, but I still would like to get out of this thing while negotiating peace, but also rallying the allies. Is he just trying to cover all his bases, you think?
Man, I'm going to give you my real take on this, just completely naked. I think that the way that Trump views the world is there's a right way to do business and a wrong way to do business. I, Trump, am always doing things the right way. So I'm going to come to you with a good deal. It's a good deal for you. It's a good deal for us. If you take the deal, yeah, this is awesome. I would much rather do business with you. But I now, for God knows, I forget how old he is, 79 or something like that. Let's say he got into entrepreneurship at 20. So for 59 years, this guy's been doing business, less, I guess, because he was president once before, but he's been doing business without being able to show up with the entire U.S. military standing behind him. So I really think that's the way that he plays this game. I've got the perfect deal for you. Take it. If you don't, by the way, I'm going to shoot you until you are dead. And he just is getting off on being able to do that. Like, I slide the document across the table. It's a good deal. Don't worry. Just take it. This is all amazing. In the fine print, you will notice, however, I am going to drop the mother of all bombs on you. Literally, that's its name. If you don't agree to my terms. And that just gives him a hard-on, the likes of which he's never experienced, despite his time potentially in the Epstein files. And he is just like going way too ham. So yeah, that is my mental map of him. I'm going to get my way. No matter what. I try to make sure that my way is good for you by my worldview, meaning Trump. And if you agree, all is well. If you don't, all hell breaks loose.
Is it possible you think that, I don't want to say hubris because I feel like it has a connotation now, but does he have blind spots that could get him into something a bite that's too big for him to chew?
The blind spots that he is likely to have are the size of Mount Rushmore. Like, they are gigantic. So, and I say Mount Rushmore because his sights are set so on legacy, on being the guy that managed to pull all of this off. And the thing is, if he does it, the terrifying thing is that he actually has a shot to do something incredible. but he has so destabilized everything to rewrite all these new rules to put America in a position of supremacy that he's just putting everything at risk. And so this is like watching a guy. It is a game of skill. So it's not watching a guy play a game of chance, but it's like a guy betting everything on the outcome of Game 7 in a highly contested series. And you're just like, yes, if you pull this off and you pull it off because you're a more skilled player than anybody else, it'll be incredible and you'll be remembered forever. But it can also be that moment. I can't believe I'm making all these sports references, but it could also be that moment where the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl, and instead of like doing the run in, they do the weird pass.
Hot pass at the goal line.
And it was just like, what is happening? And now it's you're a clown forever. Yeah. And if he loses all of this, the likelihood that he will be pursued legally for until he dies are basically 100%. So it's just this existential game. But he does have a chance if he can pull it off. But there's so much collateral damage in all of this, it's impossible to say whether he's going to be able to get it across the finish line.
We have to talk about the elephant in the room. For a war that's almost over, the U.S. Army did something really, really tricky here, where they increased the military enlistment age from 34 to 42.
Right about now, you must be so stoked that you're 53.
Oof, I just missed it. Just missed the cusp.
Now, as just a check-in, because I do think it's important that we say this every now and then, that's a lie. And this is a whole thing that I did to show that you can say, I'm about to lie to you, flag it for everybody, and say, this is a lie, but I'm going to repeat it. And because I repeat it, it's going to become true. And there are people that actually think you're 53. It is so fucking
so many
hilarious.
people clutching their pearls right now. They chat like, what? No, you.
Now,
how dare you?
Keep in mind, I'm going to keep lying about this because I want to remind you guys how easy it is. If you just repeat something, people will believe it. So this is my last reminder for a while. It's all a lie.
Every 100 shows, we'll drop another reminder that this is a lie. Yes, but the maximum enlisted age slid up from 34 to 42. And coincidentally, they're providing waivers for a single conviction of possession of marijuana. And they're implementing this on 420. So this is very interesting to troll us.
We don't have a puff puff give sound effect.
But yeah, so quiet as it's kept. Now, I know we were talking about this before. Now, this doesn't mean this is for a draft or anything like that. But what it does mean is you can now be in the Army up until the age of 42. So if you are drafted, the draft impacts people who are eligible for the Army. So by second order, you will then be eligible for a draft as long as you're up to.
It's like terraforming should they want to create a draft. And by the way, for the people that are already in the military, if you would normally be did they hard boot you if you were at a certain rank or something?
Transition.
So it basically kind of like extending the retirement age. You immediately have a bigger workforce than you otherwise would have had. And then if they were to do a draft, theoretically, you've extended now the number of people that you have in your pool to draw from, which is why Drew is very excited that he's 53 and he's outside the window.
I just saw this meme because these are both very funny things, very serious things. But if I don't laugh about it, I'm going to be angry at the government.
Correct.
Millennials realizing they're about to be drafted.
No.
We just did 9/11. We had to go through the Great Recession.
Yep.
Now we got to get drafted. Sheesh. Shout out to millennials. We're struggling over here. Also, another funny thing from Trump's Trump's press when Pete Hegseth was on the mic. I don't know if you've seen this.
I have. Yeah, you have to look at your screens now, boys and girls. This isn't going to make any sense, but it's pretty funny.
As viciously as possible from moment one. And that's why we see ourselves as part of this negotiation as well. We negotiate with bombs. You have a choice as we loiter over the top of Tehran, as the president talked about.
It takes a
about
certain
your
kind of person
future.
to do this.
The president has made it clear that you will not have a nuclear weapon. The War Department agrees. Our job is to ensure that. So we're keeping our hand on that throttle.
Look at Trump's face.
As long as hard as is necessary to ensure the interest of the United States of America.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Trump is funny. Trump is funny.
Trump is funny. And he legitimately has comedic timing. And that is... He's got riz, man, and that's how he gets away with a lot of this stuff. Is just so I went to that event at Mar-a-Lago, whatever, a year ago, and he was legitimately funny. And the whole audience, like this was at the height of his dance thing, the YMCA, like when he had first done that. Yeah. And he started dancing for the crowd, and everybody was like just laughing their asses off. And I was like, whoa, this, you can say what you want, but he's got charm, he's got charisma, and that's part of how he's risen through the ranks the way that he has. Is wild.
But with us on the cusp of winning a war, this draft age thing is interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the TSA, the ICE agents in the airport is interesting. The amounts of false flags news is interesting. There is some conspiracy theorists on Twitter. I didn't want to give him like feedback, but it was an interesting theory that, yeah, first they're going to raise the draft age, then they're going to do a false flag attack. And then since ICE agents are in the airport, we're not going to be able to leave because they could just grab you if you try to flee the country. And he was just kind of mapping all these things together. And I was like, yeah, I don't think it was that 67D chess. But at the same time, these are things that are contrary to if we were winding down a war, we wouldn't really need to have these other things that are happening at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to Trump, he says that the war is won. He says that it's going to be short, but he's not exactly saying like we're pulling out today. So I think he's pretty consistent. Here are the things they will have to agree to. If they don't agree to them, I'm going to keep blowing shit up to and including their infrastructure. I hope they don't force me to do it, but I will do it if they force me. And so how you read if they force me is, going to determine where you come down on whether what Trump is doing is right, just, whatever. I'll just plant a flag again to remind everybody. The real thing to think about is how many people had Iran on their radar in a big way before he went in. And so there is a normalization of like very few people now are still banging the drum of just full stop. We shouldn't be in Iran. Certainly not on the, call it mega crowd. And that's where I constantly remind myself to say, okay, if I wasn't banging the drum about the threat of Iran, I need to really check my mental map of what am I going to learn about this as to why I didn't see this as a problem that we should be focused on. I really didn't see Venezuela coming. Like that wasn't on my radar. So it's like, okay, cool. There are things from a geopolitical perspective that I don't have pre-mapped out. And I think this is part of what made Professor Jiang so interesting to people was he called this almost 2 years ago. So he was mapping something about the interconnectedness of the US, China, oil, the Middle East in a way that other people weren't mapping that had higher predictive validity. And so that I think is really important for people to understand that the things that they're not able to map well. And so when you become purely reactive to what's happening, that's where it gets a little bit dangerous. And so the place that I've been focused on is China economics, right? So that whole triangle I understand pretty well, but I do remind myself when we started dropping bombs the first time on Iran, I did not see that coming. And then I was super confused that he was going back into Iran. So I did not have a mental map. I understood the things that people were saying, but I did not understand sort of the real cause and effect that was going on beneath the surface. So yeah, important to look at that. Okay, anyway, having said all that, now when I look at what Trump is doing, he's being very clear. He's got an agenda. He's said over and over, people will say that he's not being clear about what he wants. He's not being clear about what he will do to get it, and he's not being clear about what he will do to exit if he doesn't get it. But he's being very clear about what he wants to get. So on that front, it's like, I'm driving towards this. This is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to bomb them back into the Stone Age. I hope they agree. If they don't, we're going to start taking apart their infrastructure. Then Iran is saying what they're going to do. And that's where I worry, is that because there's no, one, he couldn't message it even if he did have it, because now you're going to queue off Iran, like what the price is that we're willing to pay and where we're going to hard tap out. Odd reference, but that's exactly what happened to FTX when they imploded, was because what's her name, Caroline something, signaled basically this is what we're willing to pay. And so people are like, oh, cool. Then we're just going to push the price beyond that and you're not going to be able to pay anymore. And that's how they collapsed it. And so you would get a similar effect if Trump was like, this is like what we're going to do to exit if we're not able to get them to do X, Y, Z. Then they go, oh, cool. We're just not going to let you do X, Y, Z. And then we know what your exit plan is. So even if he has one, he's not going to be able to message it. But that's where I'm like, I don't know that there is a super easy way to get out of it, because literally at this point, he can't leave if the Strait of Hormuz is closed. He can't leave. You will find yourself in a position where every American will go, yeah, you need to go bomb them. Because if we become completely isolated from the rest of the world, if our energy costs are going up, now that part is actually something worth a deep dive, because we're an energy exporter, but I have a feeling there's enough knock-on effect in all of that we would still run into trouble, which is why our energy prices fluctuate as well, because theoretically, if we're producing all of our oil, it wouldn't. So there are ways that, yes, we're an energy exporter, but I'm sure as you look at it, there are going to be things where, for simplicity's sake or type of crude or whatever, we're bringing it in. So I don't think that we would get out unscathed. And if other allies are caught up in that, they're not going to let us exit. So that would be, yeah. I don't think there is an exit strategy if the Strait is still closed.
There is reports now that the Strait of Hormuz has opened up and Iran is charging to get ships through it. I'm trying to pull up this tweet.
What I saw was they're charging $2 million per transit, which is very expensive. And they are not letting U.S. and Israeli tankers go through. So if that's true from a U.S. perspective, it's still not open.
Yeah. Copy. Interesting, though.
And we've talked about this before, but if you're Iran, that's a smart play. You isolate them from their allies. You get everybody to go, Donald, I love you, but I need my energy. I will not be able to stay in power. My own people will revolt if I don't get this. And that across Asia is just true.
Spain just announced that they got approved to have their ships go through. And, the Spanish PM has been beefing with Trump. So it does seem like they're chugging away. And Asia is a week and a half away from total collapse over there. So we'll see a lot of the Philippines, Vietnam, and those countries probably crash as well. So, or come to the table with Iran. So interesting to see how it all plays out. In other news, there has been some speculation about insider trading because there have been some monster bets.
This is wild.
It's one thing to do it on the poly market, Kalashi. It's another thing to do it on the stock market and the futures market. And like the head of the SEC just stepped down because of it. What was her name?
I don't think she was the head of the SEC.
Or SEC enforcement director, Margaret Ryan, resigned last week, reportedly because she got into a fight with her agency bosses about going into investigating the Trump's family's conduct. And there has been some monster trades. Break it down for us.
Yeah, so everybody needs to be cognizant of two things. You must have trust in your markets. If you don't have trust in the markets, the one thing in your economy that's working, poof, goes away. That is something that we really have to focus on. And then number two, that there's nothing right now that's actually linking this to Trump. I think everybody's right to be paranoid because it really just seems like there's something going on where people are getting insider information from the Trump administration and placing these bets, because in a single 1 minute window on Monday morning, 14 minutes before Trump posted on Truth Social, someone placed a $580 million bet in oil futures and a $1.5 million bet on S&P 500 futures. These orders were 4 to 6 times larger than anything else trading at that hour. When Trump's post hit, oil dropped and equities jumped. So whoever placed those bets made a staggering fortune. Now, like I was saying, no one has been charged yet. No one has even been identified yet. The White House denies any wrongdoing, but the pattern is deeply alarming for anybody that believes that these markets have to be fair, that insider trading is a thing for a reason. Similar trades appeared minutes before Trump announced a 90-day tariff pause back in April of 25. Anonymous polymarket accounts have been placing winning bets just before U.S. strikes on Venezuela. And in the opening hours of the Iran war last month, 6 anonymous accounts reportedly made $1.2 million betting on the precise timing of U.S. strikes on Tehran. Now listen, some people are just going to take stupid risks and they're going to win. If you look at the market, you will see people make huge bets and then just get clobbered. So it happens all the time. It's entirely possible that these are not insider information. They are just people that were willing to bet a lot on a gut instinct. But you've got to do the investigation. The Financial Times, BBC, Axios have all documented Monday's trades. Market analysts are calling them highly unusual. Senator Chris Murphy called them mind-blowing corruption. We'll see in time if that's true, but he's asking the right question. Who was it? Who's making this trade? Confidence in the markets is the bedrock of that system working. Every retail investor, every pension fund, every small business owner who puts their savings to work does so trusting that no one has an unfair advantage. But when you're getting insider information, you have an unfair advantage. And it just makes people throw their hands up and give up. Guys, when you have the kind of K-shaped economy where we are being robbed blind by the government through inflation, you can't also have people robbing you blind on the upside because they have insider information. Like, it is just crazy. We are rapidly becoming a society that is just like, well, it's all burning down anyway, so I'm just going to take maximum advantage on my way out. That is dire. That is dire. It really makes me think a lot about my own engagement in the world and like, what is the right way to deal with all of this stuff? I think about this a lot. I do sometimes feel like there's a very, 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 very small number of people that will ever hear the arguments that I'm putting forward. Of the small people that will ever hear the arguments that I'm putting forward, a vanishingly small number will actually update their mental model. So every now and then, it does feel like the only thing that changes people is pain and suffering. But it feels like, from a moral perspective, to earn my own respect, I have to at least try. So I get it. I get the desperation that people must feel looking at a K-shaped economy, looking at potential insider trading like what we're seeing right now. And the call of the hopeless abyss is very compelling. And I think all of us have to reject that. The moment that we totally give up on trust and that trust breaks, the moment that the market becomes seen by all of us as just a casino where insiders are going to cash out while everybody else is left holding the bag and we just check out and stop participating, is the moment that we completely give up and the parasites in the system eat everything. And I think that the accelerant that nihilism would bring in this moment is something we absolutely cannot afford. So we've got to turn to a call for enforcement to be the backstop. It can't be something that weakens at this moment. Axios is reporting that the DOJ's public integrity section was cut from 36 lawyers to 2 last year. It's probably not the right time to do that. Reuters reports the SEC's top enforcement official, as Drew was just saying, resigned after being blocked from pursuing cases touching Trump's circle. You have to look at what everybody's doing, man. You can't flinch away. Even if you love the Trump admin, you've really just got to hunger for whatever is true. It's the same thing I feel about the Epstein files. It's going to be some uncomfortable stuff. Everybody's going to have somebody that they like, that they don't want to see caught up in that. You just got to invite it. You've got to invite whatever's true is true. All right. I think it would be very unwise to ignore all of this and sweep it under the rug right now. Whoever made these trades, connected to this administration or not, they need to be identified and investigated, right? You don't want somebody getting in trouble for making a dope bet, but look at it, make sure that we're all good. Market integrity should not be a partisan issue. It should be the foundation that the whole system runs on. So as of right now, the SEC hasn't commented. We'll see. No charges have been filed. Just as a reminder, we don't know that anybody has done anything wrong. But boy, oh boy, is it suspicious. So let's take a look-see.
You are very generous with your assessment of that, because the timing of that is unheard of. Mm-hmm. The scale of it is unheard of. The 1.5 billion on the S&P futures was a record, like literally a record bet.
Yeah.
5 minutes before Trump tweets that.
If you want to know what I think it's insider information. I think it's obvious that it's insider information, but I also think that we have a judicial system for a reason. And I don't think people understand when this stuff breaks, it breaks bad. Mm-hmm. People die, lots of them. They go to jail when they shouldn't, lots of them. And the system is always broken by somebody who's convinced that they're right. And then it stops working the way that you thought it would. There are second and third order consequences that you weren't expecting, but now you're overextended. Now you need to stay in power. And now there are people baying for your blood. And so you realize I've got to build like this shell around me to protect myself. And now all of a sudden you are the very monster that you were trying to protect yourself from. So it's one of those, man, we have to be really careful. This stuff needs to work its way through a system that's functioning. I mean, I'll fractal hard on getting oh God, what do they call activists? Getting activist judges out. Like, judges should be celebrated for being impartial. Like, you want the person that's like, you can't figure out what team they're on. One of the greatest compliments I've ever been paid was by somebody that follows the show. Mm-hmm. And they were like, Tom, I really tried to figure out what camp you're in. He's like, I still am not sure. Like, I'm never sure which side of an argument you're going to come down on. And I like that. That's my goal. I don't want to know ahead of time what side of an argument I'm going to come down on just because of who else supports it or hates it. I try to keep that in mind as I look at Mamdani. Like, he's the person that I'm most like, be careful, because that one to me is like, there's socialism porn for me, where I just want to bang the table, flip it over, and the outrage feels so good. And so, yeah, I know that I have to really be careful there, but I don't think not many people run that same algorithm.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what we think differentiates a first world country and a developing country is roads, infrastructure, sanitation, things like that, but it's really trust in systems, trust in government.
True, God damn, that's a banger.
Yeah, if you don't have that trust in that, you're just as bad as those countries that you call corrupt and run down and all these other things.
I'll even say, if going to the first thing that you said, the thing that differentiates us isn't just the economics. The thing that differentiates us is trust in institutions, trust with each other, what people call a high trust society, and not ask people to think of it as good or bad, but think of it as effective or not effective. Like, do you want to live in a high trust society or not? And when you look at the consequences of not living in a high trust society, everybody just tries to rob the system in a low trust society. When you really start looking at this stuff, you realize that the whole idea of the tragedy of the commons is a cultural thing. And part of the thing that makes Japan such a fascinating culture is they don't have a tragedy of the commons, because their culture, or it's certainly not to the scale that other cultures would be, their culture hammers it home so hard. This is why during the last World Cup, people were shocked that Japan was going around and cleaning up the stadium, because like, that's just in their culture. That's what you do. It's not just about picking up your own trash. It's making sure that it's dope. Anybody that's been to Tokyo, I was shocked. People just carry their trash around with them. There's no trash cans anywhere. And I was like, if you didn't have trash cans in America, then people would just litter. That's the tragedy of the commons, where people don't think about, and look, I'm not a collectivist. I'm an individualist, for sure. But when you're an individualist who believes, yes, but from an evolutionary standpoint, I need to be plugged into a society. And so I want to be able to do my thing. I want to be able to fight my war. I want to be able to have freedom, all of that. But in my freedom, one of the things I'm going to exercise is a self-accepted responsibility to the group. And when it is self-accepted and not pressed down on you from above, it's extraordinary. Think about how you feel towards your family. It's like that. You want to feel that as broadly as you can, so that you're creating a system that works for everybody. This is why I simultaneously want to win capitalism the most, but at the same time, I want to make sure that capitalism is set up in a way that isn't rigged against anybody. But that means I have to be willing to lose. And that's really hard for people to do. But if we can beat that into the culture, like, that's worthy of respect. We want to respect the guy that's like really trying to like play this game to win. But at the same time, is like, I don't want the game rigged, even if it's to my advantage. It's tough. America is more and more sliding into a nihilistic, I really need to learn the name for this, post-colonialism or something. There's a name for this vibe of America stole everything that it has and therefore needs to be plundered. And that's why you're seeing the level of fraud that we're seeing, and people getting up in arms when you've got Doge trying to come in and say, but hold on, there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Can we not all agree? No, we can't all agree, motherfucker. Get out. Like, firebombing Teslas. That is a mentality that does not believe in property rights in the way that we used to, that believes that the people that have earned something have done so nefariously, and therefore things need to be taken from them. That's so dark, and that will not lead anywhere good.
Yeah. We'll see. I think we're in a time right now where we have a president who has lied to the American people, whether it's spin, whether
You've
it's
never lived in a time where you didn't have a president lying to the American people.
Absolutely. But I guess now it's different when it's a lie in order to protect the sovereignty of the nation versus something to appease my ego or my base. There's facts.
So you think Trump lies in a unique way?
Yes, in a brazen way, in a way that it's almost like the lack of hiding something technically is a lie. So withholding information is different than making things up. And I think that there's a difference in that dishonesty. But on the flip side, it's Trump's an easy target. We can all throw our tomatoes at him. But then when you do uproot California fraud, Minnesota fraud, anything that the Democrats can then stand on, and it's tangible. There's people who actually proved it. Hey, this is a facility that just billed $3 million. It is 2 pizzas and a Corona inside. I think something's is up with this. And for some reason, they get blinded to it. They don't want to call out those lies. So it's one of those things where as America, we really need to come to a reckoning, because I do think right now, if you just look at what the government is doing, insider trading, Medicare fraud, healthcare fraud, all these other frauds, everybody's getting lobby money. The fact that we have TSA lines that are crazy, even though everybody who bought a ticket is paying for TSA through our security fee, that somehow got rerouted to Congress for a slush fund. So it's like the people who are robbing us blind are the same people that are supposed to be enacting these laws and stopping it from happening. And I think that trust is now broken. That window is now transparent, whether it's unusual whales tracking insider trading, whether, again, it's politicians saying one thing on January and then something completely different in March with no change of information, just the tide has turned and I need to figure out how to rile up ahead of the midterms. I think that these things are just getting worse and worse. And as we're rolling down the hill, the snowball is getting bigger and bigger. And eventually we're going to get to a point where it's past the point of no return. And then it's every man for himself, press the button. We're going to default on our bills and people are going to lose trust in America. Because right now Americans are losing trust within it. But the world is also starting to see, like, wait a minute, America isn't the thing that it's been selling us for the last 250 years.
We're already there. I don't want it to be true. This is what I was trying to get at with saying being cynical, being nihilistic I know that's not the right answer, but history tells us that what people need is pain and suffering. And what I mean by that is, if everything is easy, then you form a mental model of the world. This is all easy come, no problem. I don't have to work for this. We don't have to be disciplined. Nothing in life tells us that anything bad is going to happen by being undisciplined. And it takes so long for the problem to really manifest in a really real way. So take female promiscuity. Any individual woman, I want you to enjoy your life as you see fit. So that's great. But there's a consequence, which is that when men don't feel like they have to rise to a certain level to gain sexual access, then all of that innovation engine begins to die. And it's one of those where then you go, okay, but what are you actually saying women should do? Are you saying that women have some responsibility to men to like make them earn sex when women should just be able to enjoy their lives sexually? And what I'm saying is, if they don't, you get problems that we're seeing now where men just check out. They're going and dealing with it in their own way, pornography, video games, whatever, but they're numbing themselves out, checking out of that system. And so this isn't about moral right and wrong. This is about cause and effect. And when women don't become sexual gatekeepers and they don't make it hard to earn their affections, and there isn't a push towards monogamy where way more men have access to a woman than when all women are essentially competing for this really, really small finite group of men, then there's a knock-on effect. And so as a culture, if we don't promote certain values over others, then you're going to get a different world. And so then there's something about being aware of these things that is becoming deeply problematic. When it was hidden and very few people talked about this stuff and they could just sort of move society behind the scenes, like through a religious agenda or whatever, it worked because you didn't realize that was the game being played. But now the information is just so in our faces and people have like a natural revulsion to this stuff. And this comes back to, you're in the age of information where there's high velocity, high volume of information. It's in everybody's face all the time. We're aware of all the underlying motives, which is a big part of why I think you think Trump lies uniquely. I would say Trump has a different style of lying, but in terms of magnitude, no. He'll make stats up. He'll say everything is the biggest and the best and all that. And so you could count those as all individual lies. But when people rack that up, like when you hear him debate and they go, he lied 134 times, and you realize that 130 of those were him saying it's the biggest ever, it's the greatest ever, whatever, which is a lie. It's not true. And at the same time is utterly pointless. So that's where I'm like, yeah, but like if you look at the way that politicians not only hide things, but they will just outright lie, reframe, position, try to move people. It's crazy. So I don't know what happens. I don't know what the final outcome is going to be of a society that has this volume and velocity of information, that we're completely aware of how all of these things work, because people will start pushing back for weird ass reasons.
We shall see. We shall see. Let's jump over to the airport, where depending on what city you're in, it's either a madhouse or it was not too bad. I've seen conflicting reports. I know personal people who've been traveling. In Houston was a shit show, but yesterday it was fine. My family's in JFK right now. It was a shit show for them. My brother's flying out of Atlanta. I'm curious to see how he goes. So I'm curious to see what everybody's experiences are. If you've traveled recently, please drop it in the chat. But Trump announced that he is sending ICE agents to the airport to help TSA. I'm trying to move the mouse to click the tab to move TSA. And they have deployed starting Monday morning. Atlanta is showing here, seems like it's helping. And Matt Von Swall retweeted. So basically, ICE deployed somewhere, TSA line plummet earlier this year, traffic vantages, D, ERs close out, E, construction sites are ghost towns, F, class sizes shrink, and we're supposed to believe that there are only 11 million illegal aliens in the country. Do you think that the shortened lines have to do with illegals not flying anymore, or is this something else entirely?
I think right now we don't have enough information to know if what we're seeing in the airports is because TSA is being helped by ICE, and ICE is super efficient, or at least really good at getting the TSA agents focused on only the things that they're trained to do, and then ICE is just taking care of everything else. And so now we're moving people through the system. Or if ICE's mere presence means that illegal aliens are like, can't travel now. And what we're really seeing is that we have a much larger illegal population than we thought we did. It's also possible that it's a combination of both. I think it's going to be very hard for us to begin teasing these things apart. This is going to be one of the biggest things that we have to face moving forward as a nation. Right now, we're so pulled, our attention is pulled overseas, what's happening in the Middle East or what was happening in Venezuela or Cuba, that we're forgetting that one of the biggest battles is going to be a cultural fight over how we're going to handle immigration. And that, I think, comes down to how we think about our political power structure, because right now, illegal aliens absolutely serves whatever party is going to give more things away for free. Right now, that is the Democratic Party. So the Democrat Party right now is wildly advantaged by having illegal aliens. And if people can abstract it away from that for a second and just understand there is a power move to play where either side can decide we're going to give a bunch of social benefits. And if you have an open border and social benefits, you are going to attract people, and they are going to vote for whoever's going to continue to give them social benefits. And by the way, you're attracting a very different type of person than you would otherwise attract. I've covered this stat before, but when you bring in illegal aliens, it's actually good for the economy for a very brief period of time. And then over time, the people that come in start drawing off of the social systems far more than they contribute. So people will often point to, but look, when you bring in aliens, like you get this spike in the economy, everything's great. They pay into these systems, they don't pull out. And then over time, you realize it's the exact opposite, and it becomes a massive drain. So you've got that, you've got voter integrity, you've got just the sheer volume of illegals that are going to influence a whole lot of different things in the economy, not only tax rates, but their bodies in the census, which then impact the number of seats in Congress. Plus, we're going to have to contend with, just from a pure values play, what countries are we going to let people come in from? You're going to have to contend with Muslim immigration, which I will say, of course, it's never all, but they're running the Jewish strategy that was run in Israel. People get all up in arms about that, but are they up in arms about it happening in Europe, potentially beginning to happen in America. Same strategy, man, just two different groups of people. And so we are going to have to confront all of that stuff. And so we're getting this really weird teaser of it right now, but we don't have enough information with ICE going into the airports to know exactly what's happening. But this is that little bit of the iceberg that's poking its head up above the waterline that America is going to have to contend with. Full stop. This is going to be a massive issue.
I have to shout out Delta because this, I think, is the biggest move out of all this airport nonsense that we've been talking about for the last week. Delta is suspending its special service desk for members of Congress until TSA is fully funded. Delta says members of Congress will now be treated like all other flying customers. And I think that this is a very important aspect because the people who are literally holding American people hostage in the airport because they're bickering over a bill, they get special treatment, special service desk, private flights. They don't have to deal with that. This is dope. So shout out to Delta for this. Yes.
That's amazing. Yes, please. Make people deal with the realities of their own policy. For sure. 100%. I love that.
All right. We got some super chats. Let's jump into it. Marussia Dark 316 says, thoughts on the massive backlash against NVIDIA's DLSS5 overriding art direction and lighting. Seems to ruin any game that isn't going for hyper-realism. Apparently has lag issues, reaction time sensitive games as well.
Yeah, so the reaction to the new technology coming out of NVIDIA to help upscale things in video games, DLSS5, is that what it's called? This is a classic case of people being morons. So the technology may suck today, but I do not understand people that cannot reach out into the future and go, okay, what is the fundamental nature of this? What does it let you do? And how will it get better over time? The fundamental nature of this is offloading some of the graphical processing requirements, either for the development team that's trying to get, in this case, realism, or just asking the hardware to do something. And so you've got AI stepping in to try to make this process better. I think that it is right now, it's awkward. It's not giving people the results that they want. And so people are acting like this isn't going to get better and that right now this sucks. And so therefore it sucks forever. And I think this is a weird thing that is happening to people that have like AI derangement syndrome. And they are anything that has to do with AI, they look at the flaws of what it looks like today and they say that this is absolutely garbage. The reality is that giving developers, and as a small developer myself, I look at this and go, it's not useful for me right now because I'm not trying to build something that's photorealistic. But when I think about, hold on a second, if you start opening up options so that I can tweak that, so I can say, no, I don't like that outcome. I want to make it more like this. And I can give it like reinforcement learning and I can get it to the point where, yes, now you're making this look the way that I want to look. It's going to be incredible. I will invite all the gamers out there. Go do research on why games, if you look at a game from the 80s now, you're going to look at it and be like, oh, this is kind of lame. But then if you watch it on a CRT monitor, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this looks amazing. Because the people that were doing the design of the pixel art back then understood how it looked through one of those TVs. And so they start designing knowing that they're going to be interfacing with a certain technology back then. And so they design in a way where it looks incredible. As designers are using this tool, they'll start going, okay, I know what my face is going to look like when it passes through this technology. Now we're offloading some of the technological burden. Yay, this is amazing. So I think the more tools that creatives get, the better things are going to be. And right now, you're not watching people interface with the actual technology. If you want to say, hey, leave my favorite game alone until this gets better, I love that. That's great. That's amazing. And I get all the people like that are Resident Evil fans that are like, you just made Leon Kennedy ugly and we're not here for that. There's a whole hilarious thing in the gaming community about Leon Kennedy. So cool. Yep, no problem. But look at this stuff and evaluate it as a technology that will grow and develop over time and ask a very simple question. How does this empower creators? And right now, that's not how people are looking at it.
Nice. Next super chats, we have B-Par P5L.
Damn.
Good morning. Rarely make the lives, but always listen to them. You help me all remain grounded.
Always is in all caps. I just want to point that out. Thank you, B-Par.
Rarely make the lives, but always listen to them. You help me remain grounded, focused on the right things during these insane times. Wheels are off. Hold on.
I love it, man. I love it. That is certainly what we're aiming for. So Yep. Make contact with reality at all times.
Shaq Power 678 said, "Good morning, Tom and Drew. Two things. Goggins already re-enlisted in the PJ pipeline with unfinished business.
Allegedly re-enlisted, right?
Yes. And would love to hear your take on Afro Man. Appreciate both of you truly."
That's hilarious. What a combo. So Goggins does whatever is the hardest thing on planet Earth. I mean that quite literally, his smoke jumper time and all that stuff. So I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. If he thinks that it is hard and worthy, I can see Goggins doing it. He is about as close to a superhero as you're going to get. Like, that guy is wild. You want to talk about turning pain into something extraordinary. And listen, I get it. I've said many times, I don't want to be Goggins, but I'm extraordinarily inspired by Goggins. It's incredible. Read his book. It is, when you understand where he came from and then understand how he outran that, like how he's dealt with it psychologically, I think it's extraordinary. I want to see America celebrate people like that. That's that diehard American spirit. Nobody's going to break me. Yes, he's carrying pain. Listen, I'm not inside David Goggins' head, and Lord knows he'll probably hate the way that I'm summing this up. But does he have pain inside of his head? Almost certainly. Has he found a way to channel it into something extraordinary? Yes, he has. So would if he wants to serve like that, he would get nothing but respect and gratitude from me. So God bless him. The Afro Man story is hilarious. I forget exactly what they were suing him for, but they broke into his house and like destroyed it. I don't know why they were raiding it, but they raid his house, destroy it. He's a rapper, and he ends up making like all these songs about the people that raided his house and like broke his stuff, but like entire albums about like how fat somebody is or something. That's not real, but it was something that petty and that hilarious. And this guy is now getting so much attention. And so they sue him, and they're on the stand like crying and all this stuff. And he did a whole song about how he's fucking one of the guy's wives. And then they asked the guy on the stand, "Is he sleeping with your wife?" And I think the guy was trying to be clever. Yeah. And he goes, "I don't know." Yeah. And so then it was like, okay, you just threw out your own case. You don't know. Like, this guy might actually be telling the truth about sleeping with your wife. And the truth, boys and girls, in legal context is known as an absolute defense. So if something is true, you can say it. And so if he really is sleeping with his wife, then they don't have a case, at least on that one. So yeah, Afro Man, mad respect. This is wild.
That was hilarious. Definitely got the win. Something is wrong with there it is. All right, Opulent Creator. Thank you for the super chat. It didn't cross the threshold. Love you though. Alex Hopner. I think it's pretty disingenuous. Do we even throw out the idea that illegals are the ones flying?
The defamation statement that he said he had sex with your wife. So.
Okay.
There we go. One more time.
Alex Hopner, I think it's pretty disingenuous. Do we even throw out the idea that illegals are the ones flying and now ICE is there in a slow down, clear top options? Are people heard about the chaos and didn't want to go, or they have help?
That seems ridiculous. So you think all of a sudden, only at airports where ICE has gone, that the traffic has dropped to nothing because people see that it's a problem, so they stop going. But somehow in the airports where there isn't ICE, that the lines are still horrific, those people somehow didn't get the message. Listen, I'm always open to whatever is true. And I started by saying we don't have enough information to know, but I think that it's disingenuous to say that it isn't possible that there's a large contingent of illegals that are attempting to travel, which is the same reason why when ICE was going out in force, people were reporting that freeway traffic was far less. So especially in areas like California. So it seems worth exploring. I'm not sure why you would say that's disingenuous. I'm assuming you mean I'm being disingenuous, which I will assure you, from a put all the options on the table, it is an option that must be considered. And I really believe that this is one of the bigger issues that we're going to be facing over the next decade. So yeah, I hear you. I just disagree.
The Manticore TA say, you said obese equals mental issues. I built an AI psych and equals one system. Tracking diary reports, mental health, solid. Thanks, Tom.
I'm not sure I understand exactly what they did. So they built an AI psychiatrist, perhaps. It's an N of 1 experiment, would certainly make sense. And now they're tracking daily reports. Okay, so if this is what's happening, Manticore, let us know in chat. If you're saying you're struggling with your weight, and so you built an AI psychiatrist to help you, and you're tracking everything, diary reports, where your mental health is, and your mental health now is solid, that's incredible. So, hey, stand up and clap. That would be amazing. If you meant something else, you're going to need to let me know. But yeah, dude, using AI to solve problems is dope. Get after it. And yes, when I say that obesity equals it's a mental game, be a little surprised if I said mental issue, though. If I were in a spicy mood, I could see myself saying something like that. But yes, obesity is entirely a mental game, for sure, without question. Like, there's no mystery around how to stay lean. I know because I do it every day. And I come from a morbidly obese family. And yeah, so these are choices.
And last one, Truth Devin said, Tom Bilyeu, can I ask you about what it takes to become 1% in gaming or any skill? I played a game for 2,000 hours. I've become really good, but nowhere on that pro level. I asked other players. They said they played 7,000 hours.
So yeah, this is, if you think of it like a sport, you're going to be going in the right direction. So if you want to get great at anything, you need to have a practice regime in place that is based not on the things you're already good at, but the things you need to get better at, and then practice those things. There's plenty of videos out there about people that actually train to get better at gaming. It's crazy. They are just like athletes. They run drills. They practice different things. They make sure that they're paying attention to their sleep. They're paying attention to their diet, literally. At one point when I was at Quest, we were looking at potentially acquiring Team Liquid. Thank God we didn't. The esports thing just never quite panned out. But that is, we got pretty close to some of the ways that they were working. And yeah, they're very, very serious. They treat themselves like athletes. So figure out what are the parts of the game that you're weak at that you have to practice and get better. And then also, just like anything, there are going to be certain types of games that are all Twitch based, like fast Twitch, reaction time based. And so part of the problem with esports is that people age out by 24. So reaction time is measured in milliseconds in gaming. And so you really partly just have to already be wired that way and then be young. So depending on where you fall in your aging, you may have to aim yourself at different games. So a strategy game may be more something that you could become one of the greatest in the world at. But like anything, practice, perfect practice makes perfect. So identify what you're weak at, get better.
That's like a really good point. My old jazz band teacher used to say, practice makes permanent. So however you practice is what you actually do. So
how have I never heard that before?
Yeah, it was so good.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Practice makes permanent. Wow. Wow.
Jeffrey Lesnar.
Come on.
Best jazz band on the East Coast for like 2 years. Willenboro High School.
Dude, I'm impressed. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
All right.
Wait.
Yes.
Did we both play in jazz bands?
I'm not gonna lie. I was in like the B of the jazz band.
I was F. It's fine.
Oh, okay. I never was like center stage because it was like the top 2 saxophonists, and I was always like 3 or 4.
If my teacher could have kicked me out, he would have.
Oh,
okay. Feel not bad about that.
Yeah.
But
I didn't want to overplay my hand like I was some jazz, but I still play.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I was a jazz bass trombonist.
Bass trombone.
Yeah, you put somebody on bass because they suck, and you don't want them on the actual. You want them doing the boom, 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 boom. That was me. I was that guy.
Nice. When's the last time you picked up a trombone?
Once I decided I wanted to get laid, I never touched it again. Because the trombone is the least sexy instrument ever. Now, if you're really good, shout out to Coleman Hughes. Coleman Hughes can get laid playing a trombone, but I don't have those skills. So yeah, that was a hard pass. My wife was mentioning the word trombone, and it's a desert. So it just dries right up.
Right up.
Yep.
That's funny. All right, let's jump over to Argentina, where there has been some crazy economic breakthroughs. Javier Milei has gotten a lot of beef, but I know you like to bang this anti-socialism drum, so I'm gonna let you take this story.
Yeah, this one, we're gonna check in with Argentina every so often. It really is important that we look at the realities on the ground, because if it's not working, we need to know why, what's broken. My goal is to understand what economic principles actually work, but Argentina's latest report card is in, and their poverty rate just hit a 10-year low. 1 year ago, more than half the country was poor. That number is now 31.6%. That's roughly 5 million people pulled out of poverty in just 18 months. Guys, please, we've really got to understand what to clap for and what not. You've got Cuba stuck forever in an endless cycle of poverty, not able to get out. People flying over there, being excited, saying it's America's fault that forever they've been poor. What? Now you've got Argentina that, hey, they're making hard choices. There's no doubt. But when Javier Milei took office in December of 23, Argentina was a disaster. Inflation was running above 200%, above 200% annually. The government was spending money it didn't have, and nearly 20 million Argentines were living in poverty. Milei's solution, radical, hardcore, difficult for schways. However, at least it was aligned with how economics actually work. He slashed government spending, eliminated subsidies, devalued the currency, and fired thousands of government workers. Economists predicted that there was going to be mass suffering, which is crazy because economists should know this is how the economy works. The IMF was even issuing warnings. Critics call it economic suicide. I would like to line up each one of those critics. I want to know a lot more about them. I have a feeling they're going to sound a lot like the Biden senior economic advisor who could not explain modern monetary theory. Now, there was initial pain when Javier Milei came to office. At first, poverty actually went up. And you have to be honest about that. Prices surged, welfare payments dried up. People were super nervous that they had just elected a madman that was going to drive them in the wrong direction. But then, and this is the part people do not enjoy the reality of this one, people adapted. I remember Milei said some absolutely unhinged shit. It happened to be true, which is, I'm tired of hearing, this is a paraphrase, but I'm tired of hearing that people are going to die if I institute these policies. Somehow, some way, people always find a way not to die. Now, that sounds super heartless, but it's actually true. People always adapt. And as they adapted and realized they weren't going to be able to suck on the government teat anymore, inflation collapsed from triple digits to somewhere in the 30 to 70% annualized. Now, that is still horrific, but it is much, much better. Now, this is the big one. Argentina's GDP grew by a staggering 4.4% in 2025. That is a massive rebound. They had been contracting for years, so negative growth. And to swing all the way to positive 4.4%, 4.4, we would love to have 4.4 growth here in America. As a result, as the growth rate kicked up, the poverty rate began to plummet. It dropped from 53% all the way down to what we were talking about before, 31.6%, well below where it had been before Milei was elected. This is a direct comparison to New York. So he started deregulating rent policies, okay? Deregulating rent policies. So Mamdani wants to freeze rent. He wants to regulate rent because he wants to bring prices down, which is ludicrous. It will have the exact opposite effect. That is obvious. It is knowable. So either Mamdani's a moron, completely ignorant to how economics works, or he's got a different agenda, which I will say I think he has a different agenda. I think this is about plundering taxpayers. I don't think it has anything to do with actually thinking this is going to work. So Milei deregulates policies in rental policies. The results are insanely staggering. Landlords had been pulling their properties off the market for years because rents were so low, kept artificially low, by the way. They couldn't afford to have tenants in them. Tenants are an expense line. And it had gotten to the point where it was better to let that sit vacant, even though they were losing money, because they would lose less money than having renters in them. So now people come flooding back into the market. Rental listings in Buenos Aires surged by more than 170%. Okay, you can't build buildings that fast. So this was people just saying, nope, I'm not renting this. And then going, cool, now that I can actually charge what this is worth, I'm going to rent it. Even though prices went up, because there was so much more on the market, at an inflation-adjusted rate, rents fell by up to 40%. Now, anybody paying attention to economics, that's exactly what they would expect. With less regulation, you get more supply and therefore lower prices. That is what economics predicts. And now, obviously, we're seeing reality backs it up. But nonetheless, that is not going to stop people in Cuba, people in New York from running the exact opposite strategy. It's maddening. Now, there was a lot of hand-wringing when the U.S. provided a $20 billion currency swap line in October of 25, obviously, to help stabilize the peso. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, listen, we're not giving them money. This is a loan, and this could be actually a profit center for the U.S. And it actually ended up being a profit center. The U.S. made money by loaning them money. So they had made $20 billion available, but Argentina only ended up drawing $2.5 billion of the available credit, meaning they didn't really have that big of a problem. They just needed a little bit of assistance. They repaid the loan ahead of schedule and with interest. So it wasn't charity, not a bailout. It was temporary, it was profitable, and it was designed to stabilize the peso for an ally who was in the middle of having to make a bunch of hard choices to reignite their economy. And so when you think about trying to help our allies plug back into the global economy after roughly 100 years of just absolutely moronic, self-destructive socialist policies, ended up being a pretty great thing. You took somebody that had been disconnected from the global economy, that was absolutely poverty-stricken, a nation that was full of promise maybe, but they had been completely hampered by a dysfunctional economy, and you helped them get back on their feet. Now, by way of keeping myself sober and being completely honest about where we are, Argentina is not out of the woods yet. This is a very difficult transition that requires you to get people on board inside of your own country to deal with some of the pain that has come along with this, to believe in this long term, that you're actually going to find your way out of it. It would not take much for them to go spiraling back into economic lunacy, because I bet there are still people in the system that are mad that they're not getting free handouts anymore. So we need to accept that this is fragile, that it could break, that it could go the wrong way. Also, Milei could start doing dumb shit and just making mistakes. This is very complicated. But the progress so far has been absolutely incredible. And anybody that's not willing to acknowledge that has a political agenda, not an actual economic agenda. So as the world once again seems locked into this weird tractor beam of debating whether socialism actually works or not, let's hope that people will see what's going on in Argentina, see what best practices look like, see that the policies that they're running yield the best results. Because right now, as I was saying at the top, we are dealing with this here in New York City, and I very much think that Mamdani and the things that he stands for are the heart of the current Democratic Party. I think that this then ties directly into voter integrity. It ties directly into open borders and how many people we've let into the country. So we've got to be very, very thoughtful about what yields long-term prosperity for as many people as possible, because you've got the right trying to hollow out the middle class. That's a little unfair. But the psychopaths on the right are hollowing out the middle class, and the psychopaths on the left are trying to go full socialist. And we need to find all the reasonable people and march them towards the middle to make sure that we have a thriving middle class. If you just look at the middle class health as like a barometer of whether what you're doing is working or not, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Right now, the extremes on either side are destroying the middle class together. It's horrific. Cheers to Argentina.
Sips tea. I want to daisy chain this with a report that came out from Fortune that said the Treasury, this is what happens when you use unfiltered paywalls. The US Treasury is insolvent. We talked about this yesterday, and I thought it was like a banger. On the actual government treasury, and mind you guys, a lot of these government documents are free, so don't take our word for it. Go to the government treasury. You can download the budget. You can see the spreadsheet yourself. We have $47 trillion in liabilities. We have $6 trillion in assets. On paper, just no nuance, looking at hard numbers. There's no asterisks, there's no people, we're not talking about budgets or illegals or Social Security. We're not talking about any categories, just top line numbers. I don't even want to say the budget deficit, because that's us continuing to climb into it. Our past bills are crazy. Our worth is crazy. It's a alarmingly high number, and if it was any other country, I do believe that it would be a red flag, a red alarm ringing. People would flee immediately. Greece was in a quote unquote better situation and it got defaulted on for less. So what do you think is differentiating America? And then we can go into how that ties into the end of socialism.
Yeah. So people don't understand what a reserve currency is. The second you understand how a reserve currency actually functions in the market, I have a deep dive that touches on this coming up next week. And you'll understand that the US is never going to default on its debts unless it chooses to do so, because we can always print money. So the real thing that people have to worry about in the US is hyperinflation. So I don't think you guys ever have to worry about the US defaulting. So anybody that says that the US is insolvent is trying to make a political point because it sounds scary. But the reality is the thing you need to be afraid of is that they will print more and more money to avoid defaulting, to make sure that they're not insolvent, so that they can rob from everybody by stealing their purchasing power. And that's not just Americans, that's everybody. So there's something called the Euro-dollar system. It's the world's worst name. This is so stupid. But the Euro-dollar, by the way, is not a different currency, and it has nothing to do with Europe. It is about dollars that can be printed out of thin air by countries other than America, which is wild. And I don't think people realize that there is an absolutely gigantic amount of money out in the world that's created and destroyed through credit every day. And so this is the thing that made 2008 so scary, was the Euro-dollar system froze. And that was when it was like, uh-oh, this is like all of global trade. The way that we facilitate everything is by putting the dollar in between any currency that wants to swap with each other. So if you're Switzerland and you want to do business with Japan, you're going to put the dollar in between your two currencies. And so that system requires debt to be loaned out, sometimes just overnight, sometimes 30, 60, 90 days, but basically never more than that. And so all of these trillions of dollars are coming into and out of existence very rapidly. And it's outside of the control of the Fed. But because it's through debt, everybody's able to do this. And it is crazy, but that's the system that you're able to extend your reach to everybody using the Euro-dollar system, everybody storing their money in dollars or saving their money in dollars. So central banks holding dollars, et cetera, you're able to inflate the money supply, steal the purchasing power of all those people. But the dollar extends a lot farther than anybody realizes. And this is why when people talk about like, what's the reserve currency? It's that thing that facilitates the trade across all borders. So it really is an exorbitant privilege. So people need to be terrified of how the US is economically. But when somebody says that we're insolvent, and I might say it from time to time because I'm trying to get somebody's attention, but the real thing that you want to focus on is that they will just inflate the currency until somebody says, yeah, we're not going to be in this system anymore, which obviously they're already trying to do. It's a huge part of what's going on in Iran. Because if they do that, then we would default. Then we would be insolvent because you don't have the ability to just print your way out of this. So, yeah.
There are some
so dire, man.
There's politicians like Rand Paul who says he has a 5-point plan that could get the America out of debt.
Yeah.
We have Javier Milei, who you are standing up right now, that says this has been a tough austerity plan, but in 3 years I was able to turn the country around.
Yeah.
And America's
18 months, by the way. I think less than 3 years.
America's doing none of that because right now we're not building up the middle class. We're extending to another war. We talked about invading another country. We have military operations in 4 different continents. So what should we be doing that we're not doing? Because I don't want to look at the current administration and say that they're fighting for us to get out of debt or reduce the deficit, because they haven't been doing any of that. The last administration hasn't. The last one. I could keep going back until 1971 when they said the debt doesn't even matter. Let's blow it all up. So we haven't been on this track. What does America need to do to get on the right track in the vein of Argentina and turn things around, increase the middle class prosperity?
Do you remember those toys that you would pull the string on its back and it would say like a pre-recorded message? Yeah. This question is the version of pulling the string in my back to let me say that you have to balance the budget. You can't be deficit spending and then printing money to cover the gap. Like if you stop those two things, people would not recognize this country because the middle class would be able to start saving their money. And when you put people in a position where they can save their way to prosperity, you have, in my opinion, done the moral thing because it's the only thing everybody understands. quite literally, if you are in your 20s or over and you don't understand that if I spend less than I make, I'm in good shape, then you, quite literally, your IQ is so low, we just can't even think about you. So this is one of those questions where do the moral thing, do the thing that everybody understands. It's a 1-2 of let me buy a house and let me save for prosperity. You do like that, but you can't do that if you're inflating the money supply. And that's exactly what we're doing. So you have to stop giving things away for free. The government has to say, we take in this much in taxes. The Laffer curve is real. We can only tax people so much. So this is how much we're going to tax people. Within that, we're going to, I think you should let people vote on this kind of stuff. Much like you would do with, what are those things called, a bond or whatever, where they try to raise money. Like, we want to make a school or a sporting center or whatever. And so you go vote on that shit. So making the budgets completely transparent, letting people comb through it with AI, and then come up with some sort of, it's not going to be a line item voting, but like come up with some sort of system where that if you want to spend something that isn't a balanced budget, and people are going to be taxed additional for it because you have to get the tax to balance the budget to do this thing, that they get a vote on that new thing. So it'll be something like Congress says, here's the balanced budget, and here are 4 things that we want you to vote on where we want to increase taxes and do this. That people go, yeah, cool, I'm going to vote for that, or I'm not going to vote for it. But that it needs to be done via taxes, not money printing. That way, the people that are actually going to, they understand that it's going to come out of their pocket. Because right now it comes out of their pocket through deficit spending. They just don't understand it. And then honestly, you probably have to revisit the number of people that pay tax. Like right now, it's close to 50% of Americans get public assistance. That's crazy. That's crazy. So you've got to figure that out. So yeah, look, we could go on and on. Mm-hmm. You've got to bring manufacturing back, blah, blah, blah. Globalism was not good for America. You've got to look at that.
Yes, but a lot of those things in the Argentinian model, they're not necessarily doing. I think he started with austerity, which
well,
is
do you want me to draw a very specific parallel to the things that Argentina has done that we should adopt?
Yes.
Okay, fire government employees, a lot of them, like a huge percentage, because they're counted in GDP, but they don't actually grow anything. Mm-hmm. The government is, from a bureaucracy standpoint, is growing absolutely out of control. That will also send a bunch of really intelligent people back into the private sector where they're going to be forced to compete and innovate to keep their jobs. So that's a huge win. You've got to get all of your social services have to be means tested. So if somebody doesn't need them, they should not get them. So there was a guy recently, he's a multimillionaire, but he doesn't have an income. So like, I don't draw money out of impact theory. I just reinvest everything. So technically I have a small income because we have to do that for healthcare, but I would just reinvest it. So I take a very small salary, so I cover the fact that I have to get healthcare through impact theory. And then I just then resend all of my salary back into the company as an investment. So anyway, yeah. I don't take money out. So on paper, I look impoverished. So I could be getting food stamps. Think about that. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, this guy does it to prove this is stupid. We're not means testing this. We're trying to get people addicted to it so they'll vote for the people that give away the most free shit. We need to stop immediately doing that. You need people to work. And by the way, I would lower, God, this one's going to be a hot take. People are not going to like this. I would lower the minimum wage in the places where it's getting ridiculous so that people that are otherwise unemployable can get a job, because people just do not understand how business works. You look at that employee and you go, yeah, I'm not paying that person $20 or whatever. I'd rather get a robot. And not all robots are going to look humanoid, but I'd rather like get the grill thing that flips itself, because I don't have to worry about any of the headaches that come with employees. And that person's just going to have a very hard time justifying $20. If they were, whatever, $14, then yeah, I might hire them. So I get it. That one's going to be a hot take, whatever. But it's like the point of those early jobs is to get people into the workforce, to get them some experience so that they can learn how this works, that they can get better, that they can move up. Like I remember my cousin started at KFC and he was just like the minimum wage guy, like running the fryer. Yeah. And he just never left. And by the end was like a regional manager overseeing God knows how many stores, making a fortune. At one point, he was doing better than anyone else in the family. We were all like, God damn. Like literally from being the fry boy. And he just kept working his way up, working his way up, working his way up, working his way up. And AI is already going to crater a lot of entry-level jobs. And so the fact that we put these other things, like the way people's mentality right now is every job needs to feed a family of 4. That's ridiculous. So some jobs are meant to be the thing that's like, hey, I don't want to stay here for very long. And so you get kids in high school, you give them that job, and then they get some work experience. Anyway, I'll get off that hobby horse. That would be another one. Yeah, as far as parallels go to what Milei is doing, the last one I'll add is deregulate, but we're already doing that.
But to your point, that's why when Milei first came into office, poverty had that initial creep up, and then it kind of regulated, because you do have to fire a lot of people. You do have to keep people off of social services. You do have to tell people, sorry, government's not going to feed you anymore. You got to figure it out. And that's frustrating, and that's very humbling. But then after you go through that range of emotions, then it comes back like, oh, okay, bet. Like,
yeah, my dad, who, thank you, Dad. I know you watched the show. I owe my dad a massive debt of gratitude. So he put me through college. And the last 5 months before my graduation, with every check that he would send me, it said 5 more months, 4 more months, 3 more months, 2 more months. Because he was like, when you graduate, you get nothing. So I put you through college. I did my thing. And now, good luck. And literally, that was it. I never got another dime from my parents. And in fact, at one point, I was helping to support my mom. And so that was hard. It left me, I was doing telemarketing at one point. I was selling insurance door to door at one point. Just is what it is. You've got to find a way to make it work. And that kept me hungry enough that I was like, okay, well, I need a job. I don't like this job. So I want to find something that's going to be even better. And so I did a bunch of job hopping in my early 20s before I finally found something that I really enjoyed doing. It paid well, and there was opportunity within the company. And so, yeah, like I had to have my dad just cut me off and be like, you know, I wish you the best. Oh, and also I ended up managing apartment complexes because I was like, I can't afford rent. So finding a way around that, would I have ever taken on that ass ache? Because managing is a nightmare. You're never at home. You are always at work. And I did that until I got married. So it was like, yeah, you find a way when you've got no other way to pay for things.
Yeah. And I think that find a way muscle could be worked out a little bit better.
And this is what I'm talking. I'm trying to get people to understand, like a country must distribute the difficulty. When the difficulty of like getting a job and making ends meet goes up to the government, you're going to get tyranny. You're going to get total dysfunction. You're going to get socialism. It's going to collapse. When you go, listen, because remember, the government is not some separate thing. It's just a bunch of people. They get together and they're like, ooh, I like wielding power like this. And if I have to give out free shit to do it, I will. But if you just remember that all of life is hard, and every group, every tribe, whatever, you push the responsibility down to the individual and go, do your fucking part, man. Like if you're the guy that's supposed to go fish, get good at fishing. If you're the person making the fishing line, get good at making the fishing line. Like you've got to do a thing that people consider valuable. That is entrepreneurship. That is working. That's going, okay, cool, I get it. We are running a specialization strategy, and that's allowed us to scale. Incredible. It's incredible. It's an absolute miracle. However, like once people think, oh, I don't have to specialize in anything. I don't have to get really good at anything. I'm just going to let this system that seems to be kicking off a lot of cash, I'm just going to let it take care of me. And then it rots from the inside out. And that's the cycle.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat was like, Tom, you trying to get eaten when you're talking about lowering the minimum wage.
I know. I get it. Here's the thing. I will make you one promise. I will say what I believe to be true. I'll also update my mental model as reality forces me to, but that is the truth about the minimum wage. By the way, here's the really bad news about the minimum wage. It incentivizes people to robot up. So
there is something to that. When I was growing up, McDonald's, Starbucks, a lot of these entry-level jobs, quote unquote, they were young high school students and like a 25-year-old overseeing all the high school students. Mm-hmm. We are in a current economy, though. When you walk into a McDonald's, a Starbucks, a lot of these places, you are seeing 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds overseeing those things. So there is something about the upward mobility that broke that I think America in general needs to fix. I think that was the one thing in America, no matter where you are, what class structure you were born into, you can then have the ability to rise. And I think in other countries, other places, if you're an elite, you're elite. If you're not, you're not. Figure it out. Like that chasm is so wide, it's hard to jump. And that was the one selling aspect of America. And I think now everybody just wants to be kind of a, what's it called, escalated, or like they just think they could just stand on it and this, I'm just supposed to like grow and rise, and nobody wants to like actually do this.
You
stuff.
got bangers today.
Hey, I'm in a good mood. I'm about to go on vacation.
Bars. I'm hurt by that, but nonetheless. Drew, that is an incredible insight. Yes, I think that you're absolutely right. People want to be on that escalator that's just going to automatically take them up, forgetting that no, you've got to be hardcore. You've got to bust your ass. You've got to become one of the greats. And if you want to get ahead, you've got to be able to outperform other people. Even when I say that, people get super weird about life being competitive, but life is competitive, man. Like if you want to go somewhere other people can't go, you've got to be able to do things other people can't do. It's just a reality. And so there is something too, like as somebody who hires, man, I want to get like a Statue of Liberty version here at Impact Theory, but on the plaque, instead of giving me your tired, huddled, poor masses yearning to breathe free, it is going to be give me your hardcore, psychotic people that just want to work to prove something to themselves. Like, yes, give me those people. Dude, I work like I'm being chased by something, and it is awesome. I love my life so much. It can be brutally difficult at times, but man, when you see how far you can take yourself when you're willing to just outwork people, and I love being surrounded by that. Being surrounded by people that grind and put in that work because they know they can get better and they're doing it for their own reasons. Man, that's intoxicating. So give me some people like that. Speaking of which, I know a bunch of people just got laid off from Fortnite. If you were one of the people that got laid off from Fortnite, I want to hear from you. I am looking actively for people that are animators, man, if you are, but I'm looking for doers. I don't want somebody that told other animators what to do. If you are one of the people doing keyframes, I want to talk to you. Same with 3D modelers. 3D modelers, animators, come on, help me make Kaizen great. Let's make Kaizen great. We are on a ticking clock. We're going to early release December of 2027. Man, that is coming fast. So we could really use some extraordinary talent. So if you're one of those people that have turned yourself into one of the best, I want to hear from you. Hit me up. DM me on X, man. DM me, or hit Ryan up, who's here. We'll find out later if we're sad for Ryan or if his alarm broke. We don't know. We will find out.
It happens to the best of us. I feel like that's like your inauguration into the live. Except Eric is undefeated. I think Eric has an undefeated track record of the live. Never been late. Never missed a thing.
Let's go, Eric.
Eric is the man. And Tom, you live here, so it's different. You don't get a shot.
I don't get no. That's all right. That's okay.
All right. The White House just told Congress how to regulate AI. Trump released a framework about what he wanted to make sure every single state they can do their own thing, but there are 7 key frameworks that they should be not touched. They cover child safety, community protections, copyright, free speech, innovation, workplace training, and federal preemption overriding state laws. It explicitly says that they should not be allowed to regulate AI development, so you can't get in front of it. It believes training AI on copyrighted material is legal, and it calls for regulatory sandboxes, test environments where companies can experiment under relaxed rules. And they say the goal is to pass legislation this year before the end of 2026. Now, this was very comprehensive, but again, this is a framework, and this is just telling all the states, I know a lot of AI things are about to change in the next couple of years, but this is what the government is saying. This is our hard lines, and these are the things the lines you can't cross. In general, I know we're racing against China and all this other stuff. How do you feel about the government kind of issuing this framework to kind of preempt all of the conversations?
I think it's very smart. It's absolutely necessary. And this is really brilliant. Like, you guys can have flavors and do things differently at the edges, but here's a core framework that we need people to adhere to. I will make you this promise. Whatever country or state abides by something like this is going to be where all of that talent goes. There is no way that companies are going to allow themselves to be hamstrung by a local state government. There's no way. This is the opportunity to end all opportunities. Look at how much money is flooding into AI. Look at the results AI has already delivered, and we're only like 3 years into like the real customer-facing version of AI. boys and girls. This is going to be the single most profound technological transformation in human history. And if you think that a state is going to be able to regulate that away, you're out of your mind. People will pack up and they will go wherever they're going to be able to pursue this opportunity, full stop. So if you want to chase your entrepreneurs out of the country, do that. If you want to lose to China, then put all these crazy restrictions for shuis. But this is nuts. I cannot believe that people are even contemplating this. We need that framework. We need something that happens at the national level. We need to win the race of all races. This is, if states don't agree to something like this, they are out of their minds.
What do you think is the thing that will stop us from really taking advantage of AI with everything that's going on now? Because I think there's argument amongst the federal and the state level of what AI regulation looks like, what it should be. There's argument among companies about what is the right way to implement AI. Some people want the Google, NVIDIA running to the dash. Some people want the Apple model, wait and see, and then just acquire something. What do you think are some of the headwinds in the AI industry that might not be seeing or might not be getting enough press?
Knocker-uppers getting everybody's sympathy and therefore stopping progress. Because we are now, for people that don't know that reference, knocker-uppers were a real thing. It was a job back in the day before alarm clocks and electricity. They would walk around with this big long stick and they would tap on the windows to wake people up. And that just went away. And that always happens in technological revolutions. And unfortunately, it really does. People that are a certain age, when a technological revolution happens, and this has been true of the Industrial Revolution, the Great Electrification, and the Internetification, you people that are, say, north of, it's probably mid to late 30s, if you're north of that and the technological revolution comes and you're in a field that's disrupted by that technology, you spend the rest of your life basically in despair. And we have historically always been like, sorry, because just like we talked about pushing that responsibility down to the individual, you've got to. People could adapt, they just don't. And so if we find that in this moment, because we are so polarized, because we have so much populism, because we are already like inches away from socialism here in the US, if that spills over into, yes, we need a nanny state to protect us from this evil technology and forget all those rich assholes that are trying to build this technology, then we'll lose. That is the thing that I really fear, is that as people roll up on a McDonald's and it's nothing but robots as far as the eye can see, they don't go, yeah, we probably should have lowered the minimum wage. Instead, they go, burn down OpenAI. And I think that that's the thing people need to worry about.
That's going to happen, though, because there was that video of the dude yelling at the food delivery bot. I don't know if we pulled it. So it's like we've seen the Waymos getting attacked. So people are already at that level of frustration now.
True. I literally wrote a comic book about this 5 years ago now. That was me going, this technology is coming. People are going to freak out. The book's called Neon Future. And it was me trying to think my way through in an entertaining format of what's really going to happen. And in the book, I'm sure I exaggerate the percentage of people that become anti-technology. But yeah, it's a world where you get this huge like collision between government types, the Politburo of it all, the bourgeoisie, like they become anti-technology. And so they all go, forget all that stuff. It's anti-human. It's bad. Like we're reverting to basically the 90s. And huge justifications for why you'd want to do that. You don't have to point much farther than social media's impact on kids to be like, hey, going back to something more like the 90s would be a better idea. And in the comic book, it gets very violent. Like people are killed for interacting with technology. Technology, like imagine a world where sophisticated AI GPUs are sold on the black market like drugs. So there is like a very real backlash that's coming. When I talk about, there's only so many paths forward, and one of them is the neo-Amish. That's what I'm getting at. There really are going to be people that they shut down, they become very embittered, they become violent. Like think about the IRA. back in the day with the Protestants and the Catholics killing each other endlessly over slight variations on a religion. You can imagine you're going to see similar types of violence as people's jobs are taken by a thing they can point to. It's a lot harder to be mad at electricity. It's a lot harder to be mad at the internet. It's a lot easier to be mad at the robot that you see on the street.
It's very true. And speaking of shutting down, OpenAI just announced that it's shutting down its the video slot making platform is crazy, but their video generation platform, Sora, OpenAI, it seems like they've been getting a couple losses lately.
Yeah. So listen, I think that people are misreading OpenAI's closing of their video generation system, Sora. This doesn't mean that video generation just took a big L. It means that OpenAI realizes that they're going to be going public and they've got to start spending their capital in ways that people that are going to buy that stock think are smart. And so this is what people often refer to as the sharps. So the sharps are the people that really understand the economy. They understand the stock market. They understand what's going to make something go up, what's going to make it go down. And they look at OpenAI specifically not being able to corner the market on the video generation. And it is just computationally massively demanding. And so they want to point that compute, which is ultimately limited, at things that are going to be better revenue generators per bit of compute. If you look at the move through that angle, it's like other people are going to pick up and run with the video generation. That's not going anywhere. And it's just about OpenAI pivoting to something else. Already, I wouldn't say Sora was at the bleeding edge of what people are doing from video generation. You heard about them when they first popped off, and it was a lot of fun. It was very exciting. But there are so many companies competing to be the winner in that space. So you've got one of the competitors going, as I go into my public offering, I realize I need to spend my capital elsewhere. So that's all that you're seeing here. If you want to talk about one that's down bad, where I'm like, I'm not sure this is going to recover, that'd be the metaverse. When Meta walked away from that, it was like, yeah, we're not really pursuing this anymore. That's when I was like, yeah, maybe that just isn't a thing. And it's not going to be a thing. They're just, until we get to like true virtual worlds that people can inhabit, like you're tapped in like the Matrix, may just not be compelling enough, and that people would rather just experience it on a screen. So there you have it.
Do you feel optimistic about the future of OpenAI ChatGPT?
I don't care what company wins, so I am optimistic about the future of AI in ways that would make the neo-Amish absolutely blush. So yeah, I think that it will transform the world completely and entirely. I think that over a period probably of 30 years, that's like now we're just totally on the other side of all the delays from people freaking out and all that, that it is a true age of abundance, and our only fear becomes people just completely checking out from an emotional perspective and basically living like a Brave New World where they're doing some sort of numb me out drug like Soma. That's my concern. But I think people will be able to have essentially whatever they want. So that's where it is.
I got to put your feet to the fire on this.
Please,
though.
yeah.
Because is it more likely to become Netscape, which was the first popular browser when the internet first launched?
OpenAI specifically?
OpenAI specifically. Yep. Or Microsoft, a staple in digital products for the last decade, century, half a century, whatever.
I think right now they're so plugged in that they're way more likely to be like Microsoft.
Gotcha.
I think the big players that exist right now are probably going to be the big players. There are weaknesses and things that could really come after them. The thing Americans need to be super paranoid about right now is regulatory capture. For sure, Anthropic's already running a regulatory capture playbook. I think OpenAI will start doing that the more they feel threatened. Also, when they go public, it's like there's going to be a flood of people that will have incentive for them to do well. Also, Sam Altman's been able to plug himself into the government very well. They have a huge moat in terms of the technology itself. So the big question mark around this will be, will companies like DeepSeek be able to show that being like the model trainers is like a gift that you give to humanity, but it's the world's worst business model. And so they get shot in the face, and it's all these people leveraging the outputs of those systems, because a DeepSeek basically just goes, I'm going to run a bunch of queries through Anthropic, through OpenAI, whatever, I'm going to train my model for an absolute fraction of the cost. I'm going to optimize it way better. And then that next generation becomes a thing. But I don't think so. I think the big models are always going to be the place where the frontier action is happening. This is one where I'm not staking my reputation on this at all. I will update my mental model. This is completely opaque to me and to everybody else. Some people will lie. I mean, somebody like an Elon Musk or Sam Altman who are so close to it, might have the real insights, but they're so motivated to lie, even to themselves. I'm not going to trust what they say. So anyway, I know that on this, I don't see the future clearly. It's just way too complicated and way too new. But my gut instinct is the innovations will always need to happen at the foundational model layer, that the complexity of the data centers will continue to grow, and that the very thing that makes it intelligence is both the structure and training of the underlying model and the optimization algorithms that run on top. So I think at DeepSeek, they'll probably make their, bones off of optimizing better than somebody else. And so they are making things smarter, but that you'll end up in a cul-de-sac if you're just trying to optimize the old system. I think you need that system to get better and better and better and better. And then you optimize on top of a better and better and better system. And now you get something that starts approaching super intelligence.
Got you. That makes sense. All right. We got to thank our sponsor, Zoom Crypto Tax Calculator. All you guys do your taxes. Some. If you do your taxes, especially if you guys haven't done them and you trade crypto.
Yes.
We got the perfect plug.
First of all, I cannot thank you guys enough for being a part of this. And to the community, I beg you guys to support these guys. This is exactly how we continue to grow this channel. So if it means something to you that we're trying to really always be cause and effect related, tied to the ground, supporting the sponsors of the live really, really helps. Now, most crypto traders are getting taxed wrong right now without even knowing it. First of all, some people don't understand that most of the things you're doing in crypto are taxable. A Sum survey of 1,500 US crypto traders found that 70% of people mistakenly think their taxes only apply on transactions on centralized exchanges. That's not how the IRS sees it, guys. You've got to be very thoughtful. Crypto to crypto trades are taxable. So every swap is a taxable moment in the eyes of the IRS. So be very careful. And the IRS is watching more closely than ever. Sum, which is SUMM, by the way, pulls everything into one place. They were formerly known as Crypto Tax Calculator. So if you guys were using them, that's who this is. But Sum collects over 3,500 exchanges, wallets, and crypto projects, including full support for DeFi, NFTs, staking, and airdrops. So if you're heavy in this world, get with Sum. Sum does the heavy lifting for you by automatically calculating your capital gains and income, tracking cost basis across all your wallets, maximizing your deductions, and generating IRS-ready reports, all with US-specific tax rules built in. Sum is trusted by some of the biggest names in crypto and is an official tax partner of both MetaMask and Coinbase. We've got an exclusive deal for you guys, so click the Sum link in the show notes or use code TOMVIP20 to get 20% off your first year. And yes, it's tax deductible. Guys, please do support Sum. And to all of my entrepreneurs out there that want to know how to leverage AI, we've got a free AI masterclass coming up Thursday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Pacific. So I hope to see you guys there. This class has been insanely popular. It's free, and it's going to show you how to leverage AI to launch your business. So I hope to see you guys there Thursday, April 9th at 1 p.m. Pacific.
All right, guys, we got some super chats.
Let's go.
Yes. DK the Sage says, how did the communists light their homes before candles? Electricity.
That's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. So shout out. Nothing to add other than that's extraordinary, and I'm going to steal that.
The Mighty Merce, 1917, says means testing plus PAYGO equals maybe not problem solved, but problem very much reduced.
PAYGO is what, like an automatic system to send people money?
Let me check. It says PAYGO in all caps, so I would assume so.
Pay as you go. A budgetary rule requiring the new legislation affecting mandatory spending or revenues does not increase federal deficits.
Interesting. So wait, we only pay out what we have?
It's a rule that requires new legislation affecting mandatory spending. It does not increase those deficits. So if this is going to increase, something else has increased because the deficit cannot be impacted.
I need to look at that. Yeah. All right. Thanks for putting that on my radar.
Next up, Sequoia Hall, 1695. I would love a deep dive on how the Numi auto plant was a public subsidy and gave Tesla the basics to build. California and federal tax dollars, public dollars in the Tesla dollars. But that does not fit the story now.
Yeah, so this is one of those areas where we have to decide as a nation, do we want to give subsidies or not? And so I think people are mad at Elon because he took advantage of subsidies that were there, but it's not like he was the only one that could take advantage of it. The subsidies were available for anybody. So either do subsidies or don't, but don't be mad at people that leverage a subsidy. That's the whole point, is you created the subsidy so people would leverage it. And if we want to say it's only available, like we want to start running a sovereign wealth fund, which gets very dangerous, very fast. But if we wanted to do that and we want to take stakes in companies so that, hey, if American tax dollars pay for it, then we want to make sure that Americans get a piece of that company. Again, it's very dangerous and I don't love it at the surface, but at least that warrants a conversation. Fine. But again, whoever takes advantage of the subsidy, don't be mad. Look at the subsidy and decide if we actually want to spend tax dollars to incentivize people to do that. One of the things that America and American taxpayers do not get enough credit for is we've run a strategy that says we want companies to thrive so that there's jobs. Cool. So we've done things with subsidies, tax zones, et cetera, to make sure that companies are able to thrive because we have the belief that there's a knock-on effect of jobs, a prosperous economy, that makes things better for everybody. And when we had a thriving middle class, that was extraordinary, and was one of the things, I'll put it in the national security bucket. It was one of the things that made America so strong. And so I don't want to necessarily see us do away with the government spending tax dollars on making things possible, like technological infrastructure and things like that. But at the same time, we do need to be clear-eyed about what we're going to give subsidies to, and that allows people to build these companies that then end up having tremendous value that's collected to the shareholders. We're not doing enough to make the average American a shareholder, yada, yada. But I would take a harder look at that than just a Tesla is no longer being honest about the dollars that they collected in the beginning.
DJ Squibs says, AI has the potential to replace labor, cure disease and aging, accelerate discovery, and solve any problem. Seems like each person should unite so it doesn't kill us all and doesn't separate the owners of it and everyone else.
So the thing that I would encourage people to think about is the I part of AI. So AI is just intelligence. And so if I said intelligence is the thing that you need to solve every problem in the world, including novel physics, I think people would go, yes, that's accurate. But as soon as you put the A in front of it, people start getting weird. And that's where I'm like, hold on. We're talking about developing intelligence. And so if we're talking about developing intelligence, why are we getting weird about it? And the correct answer there is people are afraid that it's going to rob them of a job and meaning and purpose. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, let's map that out. How do we do this well? What does it look like? How does it exactly bring about the age of abundance? I've talked about this a million times. By driving energy costs to zero, you can drive labor costs to zero. But ultimately, the thing that you need to have all the things that you've ever wanted in your life are energy costs being effectively zero, labor costs being zero, and you only get there via intelligence. So that's where I'm like, people get weird when you refer to it as a panacea because they think, I think, that people are saying that AI is already there. AI is not there yet. But man, it's on the most insane trajectory ever.
Tilby with a $50 super chat.
Super chat.
Tilby, come on.
Says, Tom, you scapegoat socialism for so much, but leave out corporate capture of government by private individuals. Socialism bad, yes, but ignoring the corruption of the capital class using government to tilt the scales leads to this. Also, I'm an animator. Let's go.
Word. So first of all, DM your boy or get Ryan your portfolio. Second, maybe because you're not here as often, but I talk about all the time. In fact, I talked about it today. You've got people on the far right that have just completely hollowed out the middle class through being perfectly comfortable with the fact that only 10% of Americans own 93% of the assets, which is completely immoral if you're deficit spending. You've got Trump barking like a seal saying, I know you all want to cut the deficit, but you can only cut it so much because we need to get elected. I beat on that drum very frequently. So what side am I more afraid of? I'm more afraid of socialism because I think that it requires a gun to people's heads, but they're both a problem. So there's no doubt that there is wild, disgusting problems either way you go, which I've said 1,000 times. So yeah, I totally agree. You need to optimize for a thriving middle class.
And the last super chat comes from Bulletproof Monk 1998. Hey, Tom and Drew, Godspeed and have a good day. If this life is the only one with consequences, what utility does calling it a simulation have? Doesn't that framing drain meaning from the only world where stakes are real?
I think it does for some people, and for some people realizing maybe that this is a simulation will be a gut punch. For me, the way that I think about it is, okay, hold on a second. You mean my whole life, this is what a simulation is? Yes, simulations are rad. They are full of meaning. Awesome. So I don't have the same weird, like that just robbed me of everything that I've ever thought sense. It holds a lot. For me, it's intriguing because I'm a city bather. So I like high tech. I like cities, like all of that stuff. I'm wired in whatever weird way makes me find that incredibly interesting. So for me, it's exciting. It's fascinating to think that the universe is not at all what I thought, that it works completely differently, yada, yada, like all that stuff I find completely engaging. And life has been incredible and full of meaning. And that means that simulations are incredible and full of meaning. But I get it. Some people are going to skim off the surface of it. But this, like, I have the feeling around religion of where it's like, oh, there's just some big thing in the sky that controls everything. Like, I don't know, that one, I could not reconcile that. And so I had to let go to continue to be hopeful and excited. So interesting. Different people will respond in different ways, but I totally get it.
And that's it for the Super Chats.
Awesome. Wow. Bang on. The time. Let's go. Timing, gents, is everything.
I know.
We got
right at the buzzer. We have to talk really quick. I'm sorry. I know people want to go, but I just thought it was hilarious. We have to talk about the quadriplegic that killed somebody with
Drew
no
just
hands.
won't.
Yo, did y'all see this story?
This is like bonus for anybody that wants to stick around. This is crazy.
Nuts. This is nuts. So Dayton Weber was just arrested for charges of murder. When I tell you this guy, hold on, I got more links. Hold on.
He's a quadruple amputee. This is crazy.
It got like, they got a video of him climbing a ladder with a rifle. So the story is he shot somebody while he was driving, put the body in the car, and drove away. Like,
it is wild. Like, if you look at your screen, he is a quadruple amputee. So he has up to maybe his forearms on both right and left arms. And then he has, I can't tell if I think it's above the knee on both legs. So, but he's climbing a ladder with a rifle on his back. He's got enough mobility in one of the stumps. I don't know if they have a more correct name, that he can pull a trigger of a gun. So he was driving, which is already wild, shot and killed his passenger while driving, and then he tried to hide the body. Like, it is just not. The funny thing was, when I first heard the story, it was explained to me that he was a quadriplegic. And I was like, did he kill them with his teeth? Like, so he's not a quadriplegic, but he is a quadruple amputee. And my takeaway was, remember, boys and girls, you can do anything you set your mind to. Because if this guy can drive, murder his passenger by shooting a gun, drag the body out, put it in the trunk, drive off, hide the thing from law enforcement as a quadruple amputee, you, as an able-bodied person, there is nothing you can't do. And so I do hope you guys all draw inspiration from this young man's commitment to his goals, because despite being really horrific goals, he stuck to them. You got to respect that.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible, guys. And I'll leave you with
so
this.
Wild.
When everyone says you can't murder or play cornhole without arms and legs, and I take that personally.
Michael Jordan.
All right, I'm done. Good night.
That was
See
wild.
you later. Bye,
Drew
guys.
coming in hot. Okay, everybody, he is going on vacation. He will not be here Friday and Monday, so I'm going to be rocking the show solo. So show up, see what that looks like, and I cannot wait to see you guys on Friday. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you then. Peace.